Welcome to the January edition of Bridge to India's Renewable Energy Tenders and Auctions Update. In this video, we provide you a summary of major developments on tenders and auctions during the month. The year began on a high note with 11 new utility-scale solar and wind tenders aggregating 2,085 megawatts. 3 rooftop solar tenders totaling 150 megawatts were issued this month. GUVNL, NTPC and SECI were the main tender issuers in January. GUVNL issued a vanilla solar tender for 500 megawatts. NTPC and SECI also issued tenders for 490 megawatts and 95 megawatts respectively. Bid submission dates were extended for 18 tenders. The 2 railway tenders have been extended yet again. The tenders have so far failed to evoke desired response from project developers as tiny land parcels spread across multiple sites are believed to be difficult for project execution. 3 tenders for Reva Ultra Mega Solar Park still await tender document approval from CERC for deviations in bidding guidelines. SECI's 2500 megawatt Koppal Solar Park tender continues to suffer delays due to land acquisition issues. In January, bids were submitted only for Andhra Pradesh's giant 6.4 gigawatt solar tender, which was surprisingly oversubscribed by more than 2 times. The projects under this tender would be developed in solar parks. Adani submitted bids for the entire tendered capacity while Greenko bid for 5.8 gigawatt. NTPC, HES and Torrent Power were other bidders for this tender. However, it should be noted that Andhra Pradesh High Court has ordered a stay on this tender, stating that the tender provisions are not in line with the Electricity Act. The main issue in the tender is that it has entirely wiped out the role and powers of the State Regulatory Commission. Auction activity witnessed a sharp dip in this month, with only 1 project awarded in Gujarat. Here, we see the month-by-month trend of utility-scale solar and wind tenders and auctions. As you can see in the graph, market activity continues to be subdued overall. Lack of demand from DISCOMs and delay in tying up PPAs is one of the main reasons for this slowdown. Now, let us look at some notable tenders issued during the month. Gujarat Urja Vikas Nigam Limited floated another 500 megawatt solar tender for projects to be set up across the state. Under construction and commissioned projects without any PPA are also eligible to participate in bidding. Torrent Power, a private Gujarat DISCOM, issued a 300 megawatt vanilla solar tender to be developed in Gujarat. The tender comes with a green shoe option under which an additional 300 megawatt capacity would be offered to successful bidders at the lowest discovered tariff in the auction. Mahagenco issued a 250 megawatt tender for Dondaichia Solar Park in the state. These projects under the tender are to be developed in 3 chunks of 75 megawatt, 125 megawatt and 50 megawatt respectively. Bihar announced a 250 megawatt solar tender for the 3rd time after cancelling previous 2 tenders. The tender has so far received lukewarm interest from developers due to poor offtake risk perception of Bihar DISCOMs. Manipur issued its maiden 100 megawatt solar tender with a ceiling tariff of Rs 3 per kilowatt hour. The project is to be set up in Jiribam, where land will be provided on lease by the state government. NTPC announced a pan-India EPC wind tender for 300 megawatt. In February 2020, NTPC had issued a similar pan-India 600 megawatt wind tender, the status of which remains unknown. NTPC also issued a 190 megawatt solar tender for Nok Solar Park at Jaisalmer in Rajasthan. The project should be commissioned within 10 months from the effective date of the power purchase agreement. NLC has invited an expression of interest to develop 100 megawatt of solar projects across India. NLC is looking for EPC contractors and intends to participate in state and central government tenders. Now we'll look at a few smaller tenders floated by SECI during the month. SECI floated an EPC tender for 20 megawatt solar with 50 megawatt hour storage to be set up at Leh, Ladakh. The project would be owned by SECI and power shall be supplied to the local DISCOM. Interestingly, only bifacial monocrystalline modules can be used in the project. SECI also announced an EPC tender for a 50 megawatt solar project in Tamil Nadu. The scope includes a 10 megawatt agro-solar project. Successful bidder will be required to transfer at least 50% land ownership to SECI within 4 months and the remaining within 6 months of award of contract. Another 25 megawatt EPC solar tender relates to development of a project at Bojodi Coal Washery in West Bengal. It is refreshing to see coal producers like Bharat Coking Coal, which will be the project owner, use renewable energy for captive consumption. There were 3 new rooftop solar tenders with a total capacity of 150 megawatt in January. Goa announced an 80 megawatt residential rooftop solar tender under MNRE's Phase 2 rooftop solar program. This tender comes with domestic content requirement and 20 to 40% capital subsidy. 20 megawatt capacity has been set aside for new entrepreneurs in this tender. Madhya Pradesh floated a 40 megawatt tender under RESCO mode for various government buildings and private institutions in the state. The tender has a ceiling tariff of Rs 5 per kilowatt hour. This tender also comes with domestic content requirement. BESCOM issued a tender to impanel contractors for installing 30 megawatt of residential rooftop solar capacity under Karnataka government solar program Saura Gruha Yojana. Subsidy up to 40% can be availed in this tender. The only auction held this month was by Gujarat State Electricity Corporation for an EPC tender of 210 megawatt. L&T won the tender with a bid of Rs 9.6 billion. Tata Power was the only other bidder in the tender. The project will be set up at land provided by GSEL in Jamnagar district. That brings us to the end of this tender update. We hope that it was useful to you. Detailed information and updates on all these tenders, including bidding documents, list of bidders and project timelines are covered in India RE Navigator at www.indiarenavigator.com, Bridge to India's one-stop market intelligence portal for the renewable sector. We would love to hear your inputs and suggestions. If you have a query or feedback, please write to us at contact@bridgetoindia.com. We will be back with our next update in February. Until then, goodbye and take care.